Now, the final installment of my one-on-one interview with the Gabonese President, Ali Bongo Ondimba. The last time we had a ride from Washington, D.C. to Dallas Washington International Airport. We talked about many things, including education. Mm-hmm. That ride, of course, was courtesy of Joe Slavic or Muzungu Kamba. You promised that you were going to make sure that education was going to be a right of every Gabonese, mm-hmm. and not a privilege. Mm-hmm. How far have you gone in that direction?
We have been able to hold important, seminar, what we call État généraux de la santé. That was done, mm-hmm. Regrouping, doctors, but also unions, also corporations, and administration, everybody. For some days, to really think of how the system right now has been working on the improvement we should. Mm-hmm. There are important recommendations, coming out of that important conference on the education, and we have already started implementing the first recommendations. Now, of course, it's a very ambitious plan. And I think we are going to go into a 5-year plan, to implement all those recommendations. Some are the school system, should be, organized and run. Mm-hmm. Others also to improve the quality of teaching, mm-hmm. and improving the quality of teaching, you have to make sure that the teacher also is better, qualified, better prepared, mm-hmm. And this is what we are going to do. And we're right now, the team's working, to prepare our 5-year plan, on education.
What about the war against poverty? Because Gabon cannot afford to have poor people, frankly, because you do have the advantage of resources.
Yeah, this is something, of course, that is a problem for us. And people should not think that we are not going to address that problem. But we need to allocate, more funding to programs to improve the living conditions of Gabonese. That's why it's important for us, to have more investment, to boost investment, to have more resources, to have enterprises making more money. It's important to have economic growth. Economic growth, and sustained economic growth will help us have the resources to invest, in the living conditions. I have been already trying to do so in raising, minimum wage, but I want to go further than beyond that. And it's just not about, adding figures. I want something. And I want an economy that is strong and that can support, social programs that are very, very, as you know, very expensive. Mm-hmm. So then you have to make a balance. It's not about just, spending money to improve, living conditions, and basic needs. But in doing so, impoverish your country because no longer you spend all the money and then you cannot invest. And we as a developing country need investment. I need roads, I need energy, I need water, I need electricity. And in doing so, this is also helping the people. But I need to create jobs because I also want the people to be able, mm-hmm. To look after themselves. It's not good to have a society of only needy people, and for human dignity, you must provide people with a job. And then people must be able to take, care of themselves and their family. So this is what we have been trying to do, to have an overall program, that is strong in investment, to maximize, revenues, and for us to be able, as a government, to invest and help people. That's why very important for me to attract the business community, businessmen coming to invest. Mm-hmm. In Africa, governments could no longer do it all. I cannot, spend money on health, security, and being the businessman. No, we have to let the business people take over what is, business.
What about providing some programs, for, giving skills really to the average Gabonese so that they can be ready to...
That is, included in the overall education program. Because, education is very important and is one of the key, element of what we are going to do. But how many of your kids are going to reach university? What about those that do not reach university? So therefore, you need training programs. And it goes, hand in hand with also your education, policy. And only that way it can work. So I have then reached out to the business community to help, because it's important that we talk. What is the workforce that you need? They tell us. What's the level, that you want? So they tell us. And then we adapt also what is being taught in our school system. Because you don't want to have, a young Gabonese, male or female, graduating, even going to a doctorate, and not find a job. Because in Gabon, what she or he would have learned will find no offer, no opportunity. So you have to balance that. So this is what we are doing, and then even the business community is reacting, well, and prepare also to fund programs, But it works hand in hand, with our overall education, program.
I sat in your presentation earlier this week, and you talked a lot about democracy. You talked about social contract. You were remarkably articulate. But some people in the opposition in your country say, you're only talking the talk. You have not been able to walk that talk so that Gabon can in fact walk the walk. They say that contrary to, for example, what US President Abraham Lincoln characterized democracy as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, that in Gabon, your Gabon, democracy is a government of some people, by some people, for some people. How do you react to that?
I hope that if I was in the opposition, I wouldn't talk that way. I hope not. And I'm saying that in Africa, really, we're tired of, hearing that. Who's the boss?
The people.
The people.
Should be. Yes. In theory, but in practice.
No. Who's the boss? The people. Who have the people elected? The one that the people have put in that, job, and then has to respect the contract passed with the people. I have been elected by my people to do something. Okay? So, what is that talk about me not reaching out? I've tried to reach out. So some are suffering from amnesia. I tried to reach out. I said, well, I invite whomever wants to come on board and work with me to help the Gabonese. Let him come. So I've done that. Now, you have to be careful not to talk, fall into a vicious circle. Because we have gone that road already in Gabon. You go to the people. You campaign on one idea. The people elect you because of what you have proposed. They like the idea. You are elected. But then, because you need to open up and talk with others that have not been elected. Those others will impose on you a different program than the one you ran, you know.
I hear you.
So in the end, who are you fooling?
Well, unfortunately, time happens not to be our best ally, but I have 3 short questions which require 3 short answers. 1, who is your role model, your hero, any particular individual that gave you his shoulders to climb on in order for you to see a little bit further?
Now, that is indeed a very tough question. Obviously, as any boy will look up to his father, and I've done so, you know. So he's been a great source of inspiration, and talking to him, I also know what was his own inspiration. Now, I also been inspired by, you know, others, and I don't want to offend anyone by, you know, putting up names, but in my position, I've been able to myself, you know, approach great leaders, and the advantage I've had was to see those leaders, meet those leaders in different circumstances, where there was not a public meeting. So I've been able to approach these men or women, being, you know, themselves naturally, and be able to ask direct questions. So this has helped me a lot. And of course, other models are, you know, in the history books. So that's what I can say.
Last question. Could you tell me what you consider to be your single most important decision during your presidency so far, and what about your single most regrettable decision under the same circumstances?
I can understand the second. I can answer the second part of the question. You know, that's saying that, you know, a regrettable single most. I don't have any.
Really?
No. I don't have any that I would regret.
What about single most important? No catalog. Single.
I can think of many. I cannot think of one because because one alone does not. No, I do not think that we're just, you know, one. No, when I take a decision, I have to think of different, you know, very many different aspects. So, and it's like, you know, it's like a house. You build foundation, and then but it's a whole, and this is how I see things.
Well, I have to say, and I'm saying this from the deepest, better part of the bottom of my Kabale heart and soul, thank you so much for taking off some time to appear on this special edition of Straight Talk Africa, sir.
Well, thank you very much indeed.